1 second here. This is just running on its own. Go back. Okay. So actually, I'd like to start by thanking our sponsors. So Nas Energy Drink has sponsored us, and they're a great sponsor of ours. We love the guys at Nas. I happen to have had a whole can tonight, so I'll be talking really fast all night long. I would also like to thank Match Factor. Match Factor is actually my new company, and we are sponsoring all of the adult beverages. So your vodka cocktails and the wine and the beer are brought to you by Match Factor, and we're looking forward to launching our new product to this community coming soon. We also were gifted with 5-hour energy drinks, and there's shots over there by the pizza. And if nobody is brave enough to do this tonight, and I can see why you might not want to do this at 7 o'clock at night, feel free to take one home and go for it, because that's a lot of energy sitting on that table over by the pizza. So we are focusing tonight. Oh, let me go back here. On using transmedia in marketing. And with our group, a lot of people in our group really focus on the creative aspect. And when we were talking about transmedia and marketing, oops, thank you. It wouldn't go back. Well, when we were talking about transmedia and advertising, what we find is there's a paradox that marketers weren't really interested in storytelling initially, and most storytellers weren't really interested in marketing. And we felt that we've got to bridge the gap, because there's often been this connection between advertising and transmedia experiences. And good brand managers know that they need to tell a story. It's all about experience marketing today. And good storytellers know that if you're not reaching your audience, you're talking to yourself, right? So we wanted to bring in some ad agencies that are really, pushing the envelope with transmedia storytelling and experience marketing, as well as some game companies that are facilitating this with their technology. Next one, thank you. So transmedia has actually been involved in the ad world for a long, long time. I actually brought it back to the Burma shave signs. You guys remember this? So when the highway was really the highway as opposed to the digital highway, they would tell this story as people were driving down the street. This is where the people were, right? They were in their cars taking Sunday drives, and so they would unfold these little tales about Burma shave on the highway. Now, of course, in today's day and age, it's a different highway. It's the digital highway. It's the information superhighway that we talk about. But it really does begin back in the day. One company that I hope we're going to hear more about from one of our speakers is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has always got it that they're not selling sugar water, right? It's the pause that refreshes. It's the ah moment. Back in the 70s, they had We'd Like to Teach the World to Sing, where they would actually do what we would call today in transmedia, augmented reality games, right? They'd get all these people together in their towns to sing these songs. And now, of course, Coca-Cola is kind of leading the way with a lot of transmedia experiences. Next, please. So today's experts that we are graced with include Guthrie Dolin, who is a principal of brand and strategy at Odopod. Guthrie is also a serial entrepreneur and has been involved in a number of different businesses, so he brings a really unique perspective from the ad perspective. Frank Marquette is Director of Content Strategy at the Barbarian Group. Frank also teaches media and technology at the Academy of Art College. Yes, okay, thank you. Shirley Lynn. Shirley actually started out as a rocket scientist. Shirley was a programmer for NASA and now works at an Italian-based game company called Be Into that is gamifying couponing. Our final speaker tonight is Finn Kelly. Finn's company called The Go Game was really instrumental in kind of pushing the envelope of transmedia storytelling. Famously, Jane McGonigal interned for Finn, and speaks a lot about the Go Game company in her books and in her work. Okay, we can quit this. This is not working out. Okay, we've got the next. So I'm going to actually just introduce and hand over to Guthrie Dolin, who is going to present some of the work that he's been doing. So thanks, everybody.
trick and make it work with my phone, and I can't hold this one. You guys can hear me anyway, right? We can just talk.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. All right, technology, here it goes. Let's see if it works.
Yeah. Guthrie can do puppet shows in case it doesn't, so.
Let's see. That's good. No, I advanced it.
Oh, you did.
But just gotta get. Just 2 minutes on me. I work at Odopod. I run strategy. I have a pretty strange background. I've launched a lot of companies and done a lot of different things. I just thought I'd give you some highlights. Back in '94, I wrote a business plan with a couple friends, and we launched a company called Ohm Records. We wrote the business plan around this idea of an enhanced CD, which was that we were going to take that extra unused space on a disc and actually burn some real content on there that people could enjoy. It's a terrible business model, but it was a great experience. The company still exists. They put out a lot of dance music, but once the enhanced part went away, I realized, my music skills weren't where they needed to be, so I moved on. A good friend of mine came to me. She had this wild idea to launch a magazine and, at the time, a website around this idea of what she called ready-made, this kind of movement around DIY. The design brief that she gave me when I designed the logo and the first few issues was Martha Stewart meets Snap-on Tools. So we kind of ran with that. Back in '04, through a mutual friend, I was introduced to David Kelly and a guy by the name of George Kimball, who were starting this amazing program at Stanford, the D School. It's officially the Design Institute at Stanford, Hasso-Plattner's Design Institute. And was just really fortunate to work with them. I designed the identity, launched the initial website, and just helped out all around. A good friend of mine launched an airplane company called Icon, helped him do that. Worked with IDEO and some folks there to launch a brand called Cleanwell. I think the thing that holds us all together is they were really complex, strange stories, and I had to learn how to tell them all. And I think it's served me well. So today, and for the last 4 years, I've worked at Odopod, founded by some good friends of mine. And it's really a different kind of agency, and it's, for our size, we're about just a little over 60 people here in San Francisco. We really have purposely built a company with different practices and different people from the world of the agencies, from the world of the startup and the world of the kind of product and software innovation company. And they all sort of work together to build these sort of remarkably strange things that we make. So what do we make? Well, we make what I would say, or what I would call, don't try to read the type, it's impossible. Products, platforms, and campaigns are all bound together by a cohesive strategy, of course, but products are the actual, sort of the currency, right? Those are the products and services that our clients sell, and we help them make those things. We help them conceive and make those things. Platforms are really just that. Their platforms are large websites. Sometimes they're social in nature, sometimes they're content management, sometimes they're transactional. Most of the time they're all of those things. And we also do campaign work, and we don't do a lot of traditional campaign work like the banner advertisement stuff. We do a lot of sort of non-traditional campaigns, but what I would say is that they really are about driving awareness and action, and that's what makes them campaigns, but often they look like products or platforms. We were recently bought by a big company that's global, about 1,200 people, a little under 1,200 people. And this has been really amazing for us because we had a lot of international clients, and so it's really helped us to have a footprint in Europe and in China. And we have some of our clients are already leveraging that across the network. In San Francisco, we've been really fortunate. We've worked with these incredibly large companies. Coca-Cola was mentioned. I'm going to take you through a quick case study. But you know, we're here in Silicon Valley, and so we get a lot of startups as well. And so, you know, we'll work with the likes of Coca-Cola and Sony, but we'll also work with, there's no small companies really. Well, Tesla is a small company. Nest is a new company as well. But it's a really interesting mix of big brands and emerging brands. And I think that they come to us for sort of the same thing. And, you know, the big companies are looking for innovative ways to reach their consumers and the constituents today. And, you know, the little companies are doing innovative things and trying to reach those same people. So it's an interesting mix, and it keeps us on our toes for sure. I think we'll just get through Coca-Cola. I pulled a couple case studies for you. So this is the first time my band has played this song. So bear with me. This is actually work that's not out. The first big project that we're doing with them that's based on this work I'm going to show you launches later this week. But Coca-Cola approached us originally because, and actually the design and branding team approached us, and they said, you know, we've got this problem that we're shifting our whole audience, our primary audience, from being what they would call the home shopper, which in their mind equals mom, to the teens that live in the house that they shop for. That's who we want to be connecting with. And while we've done a great job of building this really iconic brand that has really powerful equities, we're not speaking the right language to really connect with teens. And can you help us evolve our identity to reach them? So I'm just going to jump ahead. This is impossible to see. Well, what I will say here is that this took, what we delivered initially, and this is, again, impossible, was kind of almost aspects of it were like a traditional brand document that broke down all the key elements within the language. But we went beyond the two-dimensional language, and we broke into things like behaviors and interaction points, and really broke down the way that the brand should be behaving in those spaces, and help build a component sort of kit of parts, as it were, to communicate that language out in the world. And the way that we did that is we built upon the existing equities. So probably everybody's seen this work. It's really strong and graphically powerful work that Turner Duckworth, which is a local firm, has been doing for them. And you guys have probably all seen the amazing work that's been going on their packaging. It's really flat, it's really graphic, it really harkens back to the primary equities, but it does it in an interesting way. But what we found is that when we brought that language into the digital space, it fell flat, quite literally. And it just didn't look like things that people wanted to interact with, or turn, or spin, or play with. And so we had to start to develop that language a bit. And so we started to add a level, and this is terrible. It looks like we did nothing. Anyway, there's some subtlety there that's really lost. But we brought a level of dimension and shadow, and just enough to make it feel like you could, that you could interact with it. We also took their font, which for the type nerds in the room is Gotham, and we started to do unusual things with it. We started breaking the case, doing all caps, mixing cases. Started doing illustrative things like with this 85 and this dimensional piece with the font itself. So we really want to bring it to life and imbue it with more energy. This is a great example that you can't see. This is a great example of kind of like before and after. So, well, actually, even today, this is My Coke. Believe it or not, this website that looks like it was designed sometime in the late 90s is the team portal for Coca-Cola. So instead what we did is we took a totally different approach, and we broke everything down into very snackable pieces of content that were highly shareable. And we created something that instead of like pointing you all over the place, was actually aggregating all this great snackable content in one place. And it would really just sort of like a blog or a tweet feed would just flow in every day and push stuff down. And so as you move down the page, you're just exposed to more and more content. And of course, every piece of content is a way in, and a way to share, and a way to distribute the story. And there were things like little interactive polls, little games that you could play. You could even, sort of just, jump into any of these things and actually have like a very quick and satisfying, delightful experience. So then we started to think a little bit about all the different properties and where this language needed to live. So we went back and started to revisit some of the classic apps. This is a spin the bottle, so we applied our language to that. We started to work with their equipment team, and so this is actually a U-Ven machine, which is their kind of next-gen machine. And we started to think a little bit about, well, how does this machine act? It's not just now a place to vend sodas, but it's a place to communicate. So actually, it's really hard to see, but there's actually a little icon on this window here that is about delivering you music. So you could actually use near-field communications to download a song. So all of a sudden, this machine becomes more than just a vendor for the product, but a vendor for the lifestyle. And it's beyond that, and that last screen is really demonstrating that this is actually pulling in tweets that are hashtagged with Coca-Cola in the area. So again, it's sort of like it's alive and it's breathing, and it's something that both the teens can interact with and also see themselves in. And then we extended that language from digital billboards to food service spaces, and really started to flex the way that it could come to life across all the different places that teens are coming into contact with the brand. I think that the fundamental thing, and I'll wrap up on this, is that brands like Coca-Cola, who have an incredible platform to communicate with people and have all these different touch points that they can reach out to people, often don't think about the ways and the new behaviors that young people are demonstrating today. And we just took a step back and really sort of deconstructed the way that the teens are moving through the world, and we looked for all the small wins. Where were the ways that those teens could see themselves in the brand, that the brand could actually play the role of facilitator across the social graph, and all the ways that not only that Coke could tell its story, but it could sort of bring people under its tent and allow them to tell their stories too. And again, it was said earlier by Beth, but this isn't about telling a long narrative story and using all of these touch points to tell some pervasive, interesting, tale. This is about evoking an emotion and driving home this idea. And it's a simple idea. It's just that Coke is happiness, and that Coke is this effervescent moment of satisfaction. And whether you like Coke or not, or feel like kids should be drinking it, it's understandable. But I think what is interesting about it is sort of embracing that and telling that story, that bringing that idea to life across all of these different touch points. So anyway, that's the first time we played that song. So
Great.
anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
What song?
We did getting this going for Frank. Just to let everybody, Coke actually bought Nas energy drinks, so we are kind of quasi officially being sponsored.
I'm Frank Marquardt. Hello. I'm Frank Marquardt. A group of us here with our thinking caps on. Put these on before any client meeting. We're a digital-centric creative agency headquartered in New York. We have an office in San Francisco and also Boston. And I'm director of content strategy, which I know there's a number of content strategists in this audience because I talked to some of you before we started. But for those of you who are not familiar with content strategy, the content strategists, they kind of think about the brand and they try to understand, what is this brand about? What should their content kind of reflect? So they think about the substance, and they think about how do you produce it, how do you create it, what's the workflow, think about how you manage it over time, the governance models for it, and often how you structure it. And all of this is, I think, useful for any sort of transmedia project because you're typically sharing your content in a variety of different places. You need to think about what is the experience in each one, how is it unique. So content strategy often animates or it's behind the creative execution. I think kind of one of the things I want to do tonight is sort of, I guess, tell a little bit of a story around kind of where I see the shift happening that's moving us toward transmedia. So, there's a number of agencies that are doing transmedia work. There are occasional campaigns. It's not necessarily the most pervasive thing, at least from my perspective, but there's a lot of elements of it that I see picked up in a variety of places. So I'm going to kind of just tell the story of kind of how we got here and where I think things are. So taking a step back, any sort of digital experience relies on content. And this is an example from a project I worked on last year and a little bit this year for Sears. It's a brand we created for their apparel group called Sears Style. The goal was to raise awareness of Sears as a place where you could actually buy stylish, trendy fashions at an affordable price. So I think that kind of our approach here is to think about it in terms of, well, what are people going to be interested in? How do you create content that people want? We're kind of thinking about fashion magazines. Let's tell stories about content. Let's tell people what's happening, what's going on today. That's kind of the idea behind Sears Style. So obviously, when you create content today, you're typically not creating it for one place. You're creating it for multi-channels. So we have the website. We also have a YouTube page, a Google Plus page, a Facebook page, a Twitter account, stuff we're, I think, doing on Pinterest. You're in many different channels today. And this is actually kind of a complication for a lot of brands because brands are not necessarily in the business, or at least they haven't historically thought of themselves in the business as publishers. But with all of these channels, they're realizing they need to have stuff to put out there for people. So that's sort of shifted how they think about things. Brands are publishers. So this is essentially where we are. And I think a lot of brands get it. Coca-Cola is a great example of a brand that really gets it. But not all brands get it, and sometimes you need to talk your clients into it. In many cases, they are not equipped to publish. It's hard. It's hard work. It takes a lot of time to do quality content that connects with audiences. Requires a fair amount of thinking and a lot of creative chops. Brands, marketing departments sometimes have that skill, sometimes they don't. Often they go to agencies like us to work it out for them. There's kind of an idea that one of our kind of former head of strategy at the Barbarian Group had. He actually started a startup called Berkeley, which helps brands curate content for their various feeds. And he likes to talk about content as kind of brands creating two types of content. One, content that's stock, and that is the content that is original, unique to that company, kind of special quality. And then he talks about content that's flow, which is basically feeding into a social stream. This example is something we did for Vitamin T, which is a division of Aquint, a recruiting firm that's trying to connect with digital creatives, connect them to kind of smaller agencies as opposed to bigger companies. It's essentially an infographic showing how you can start a website, what skills you need based on kind of where you are. So it kind of gives you sort of a comic flow. It's an example of kind of stock content. This is an example of flow. It's finding content that maybe someone else is publishing, but that's still going to be relevant to your audience, pulling it into one of your feed, letting people know about it, helping tell your story through cool stuff that others are doing. Saying, hey, this is awesome, we're going to share it with you. So brands, obviously, realizing they're publishers, they're also storytellers. And I think Beth made some good points about this earlier on. This is the GE.com homepage. It's kind of a campaign we developed for them called GE Works. This is on their trains. In Erie, Pennsylvania, we're making locomotives that move freight to your hometown. They're telling a story. Here's a big manufacturing conglomerate. They're trying to boil down what they do so it actually is meaningful to you. And I think this is really, this is kind of awesome because as someone who comes from a background of creating content, I love good stories. I love kind of rich detail. I love things that are gonna move me or help me see the world in another way. And I think brands are starting to move in that direction. As a storyteller, you have to. You have to get to something deeper than buy our product, it's good. One of the things, just real quick on that other slide, you'll notice the way they're telling the story, they kind of, the headline, a lot of data. I think it's one of the things that's really cool these days is we have so much access to data, and data is becoming such an awesome tool for telling stories. We can aggregate it, we can pull it, we can dice it and slice it in all kinds of cool ways. And so it becomes, I think, one of the things that I think a lot of brands are realizing they can use in creative ways. And I just kind of want to put that out there because I think it's kind of an important piece. This next slide is kind of an extension of the GE Works campaign, where in Louisville, Kentucky, we put up a huge LED screen, and we're telling stories about things that are happening in the factory. So this is pictures of employees, stories, stats from things that they're making, how much they're making, what they're making, why it's valuable. Just another way to tell a story. It's not necessarily a deep transmedia experience. It's not a story world, but it is showing how we're starting to think outside of the website and the box. How do you get the stories out there? And then the next question is, what are the big creative cool things you can do with them? This next slide is from a campaign that we just put out with Pepsi Next. Pepsi Next is a new brand of Pepsi. It has a lot less sugar, I think 60% less sugar or something. And we made a video with Rob Riggle. He's looking at the internet. You can go to the next slide. He's looking at a picture of Improv Rob. So the idea here is that you can sign up on Facebook to have a improv actor act out you tasting Pepsi Next. It's called the Internet Taste Test. So kind of a fun way to bring people into the brand experience. It's product launch. We got a lot of interesting videos. If you go to the Pepsi Next page, you can watch people who have done this. I think the submissions are over. I think the next thing we're doing is an audio taste test. You can do an audio taste test. It's kind of extending it into another dimension. This last slide is not a project Barbie and Group worked on, but it's something that I just kind of think is awesome. It's called Infinite House. It's a 10-minute video done by a German DIY chain called Hornbach. Kind of like, I guess, a Home Depot of Germany. And they were launching an online store. So they created this video, which is a really sweet video. You can see there's this shack, and it's basically this man turns this shack into this magical house. And in the process, he befriends his neighbors and makes a bunch of friends. You can go to the next slide. There's a cute girl next door, and her dad doesn't really like him hanging out with her, especially when it's raining, and she finds her in the hot tub in the Infinite House. So to win him over, he builds a bowling alley, and you can see the neighbors on the other side going over to bowl, and the dad eventually. So he wins. It's kind of a fun story. It's an awesome story. But it's not just this they did that I think is cool. The next slide you'll see they also, for the furniture that you see him building in the video, they created a blueprint. So you could get that blueprint and you could build the furniture that he's building for the Infinite House. They also made children's books, although I'm actually not sure how those fit exactly. but they did a bunch of children's books about the Infinite House. And they created Facebook profiles for all the characters in the movie. I just think this is just kind of a really super cool thing, and I think it kind of shows. It's really cool, but it's also really it's relevant to who they are. It's relevant to what they're doing. There's a really nice connection to what Hornbach is about, Germany, and I think this is to me kind of where we want to go. What is exciting about storytelling and really the opportunity in transmedia now and for brands is how do we pull together this opportunity to look at something across many different kind of media dimensions, bring them into it in these different ways, and really give them something that speaks to really what the brand is about, what it cares about, what its story is. And I think we just saw this on Coca-Cola. Very similar thing here. Go to the next slide. I mean, this is where I see things going. We're going to bigger and richer stories, which I think is just super exciting. A little bit of a departure from the Mad Men days. But you can see, if you go to the next slide, even Mad Men is updating itself with stories through its Betty Draper Francis Twitter feed, which I learned about at Story World. Yeah. That's what I got. Thank you.
You know, there's a lot of interactivity that's happening in the world, and there's a lot of combining of the ad agency world and the marketing experience marketing world with games and gamification. And so when we were thinking about this event, we wanted to combine gaming with advertising, and so that's why the title was "How to Get Ahead in Advertising and Gaming." And so our next speaker is actually representing a company that is really doing just that. Shirley Lin is working with a company called Be Into that is out of Milan, and they're doing really incredibly well in Italy, and she's running their distribution here in the U.S. as well as in Asia. So Shirley, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. This is great. I love to talk with Ray and Frank, and I'm learning so much about it. And yeah, these are great contents. And the thing is with multimedia now, it's how do you get the audience to come enjoy your content? That's where we're coming. And this company is called Be Into, and it's not a lunchbox. Okay, everybody say Be Into lunchbox. It's not. It's an Italian name. Why they come up with this English phrase, I have no idea. But we're a startup, about 16 people. Most of them are based in Milan. I know I don't look like Italian. I know how to cook pasta really well. I'm responsible for the business development in U.S. and in Asia, because we're seeing a lot of traffic from Asia. So I'm going to go right into it, because what happened is that on the mobile, for the game developers or application developers, how do you monetize this well, right? Because it's very fragmented, and you don't have the kind of massive variety that you see on Facebook. So how do you get to the users to deliver whatever contents, whether it's advertising experiences or application, game experiences? How do you get to the users so that helping the application and game developers to monetize and helping the advertisers to reach the audience? So it's a new paradigm that we are delivering. So ads, instead of it on mobile, again, I'm talking about this platform mobile, instead of delivering it as your regular ads, like standardized banner ads, or even in-game purchases, like what they call IAP, people click away. So what Be Into is doing is what we gamify that part of the delivery. We gamify the reward part of it, so that the reward advertising, coupon, discount, can be delivered as part of the gameplay, as in the game, so that the user or the player has to accomplish something in the game, and then she or he will see this award, which is in the form of coupon, and then the user will feel like, I sweat my butt. I really earn these things. And that's exactly what we do, is we deliver that in the form of a reward so the user can earn something, can enjoy something. Again, this is like Coca-Cola's coupon or Pepsi coupon, that kind of thing. And in doing so, we actually allows what I call multiple access point in order to monetize. So it's not just a click on the coupon, it's from the point the user online, play the game or use the application to redeem the coupon, all the way go to landing page of Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever that we help you monetize, because every access point is actually help you generate revenue stream. So for the brands, what I call it is deliver your brand reach. It's called on the go, because as you know, on mobile, users' attention span is really short, so you can't really deliver a lot of advertising in a long span, because they click away. They want to go to the next content, which was their destination. So for the brand to reach that on the go, it's not just one long delivery. You have to be kind of like a multi-point and to reinforce that brand. So this is a live example. Being2 started about 1.5 years ago. Our biggest client is Fruit Ninja. It's a game designed by Australia. How many people play Fruit Ninja? Oh, what do the rest of you do? Okay, so Fruit Ninja, how many fruits you ever sliced?
I don't.
What level you ever achieved? 3,000, 5,000?
10,000.
10,000, oh man, you're good. You're a good slicer. Okay, so Fruit Ninja work with us. And what they do is that they sign up with us and put our SDK in there. And they put in a point where if the player slice 5,000 fruits, and we will be saying, woohoo, you get $5 off from a $50 Kmart purchase. So in this example here, we deliver the Kmart campaign as a $5 off. What Kmart is doing is that they want to collect the email address. And you all know how hard it is to collect the email address for all the retailers, right? So redeem that, and the user can redeem that so that they can email the user to go to the store, redeem this $5 off. Because it's a reward, and it's hard to slice 5,000 fruits, right? So the user love that. They earn it. It's not like, again, standard banner ad or in-app purchase. They earn it. So therefore, the way the mentality is that they really want to cherish that. Conversion rate, we're seeing 54%. We run this Kmart campaign in Thanksgiving, Christmas, extremely successful. Kmart pay us, I think it was $1.20 or something like that for every email address. And we do 4-6 split. You get to keep 60%, you keep 40%. So this is one example about that. So this is translated to eCPM about $16 for this particular campaign. And typically, as you all know, on mobile, eCPM is typically in US about 20-30 cents. In Japan and Korea, it's about $1.50, something like that. But this particular one is very successful. So it's as easy as that. And then they have to be careful because Fruit Ninja knows their users, so they have to learn in what point they insert this reward. It's most effective, right? You don't want to insert at 2,000 level, because then it's cheap. Everybody can slice 2,000 fruits, right? But you also don't want to insert it as like 10,000 because very few people can get to that. So it's kind of like you have to learn how to run a campaign. And we are not experts, so we let the game developers know it. And then on the other side of the equation is that we work with a network or a net agency, a media agency. They bring the national brand or the local retailer, because we have LBS element as well. And they advise their clients how do you package it, what is the most effective way of packaging. So we work with two sides on the equation. Next one. And then here's this, again, we're talking about user acquisition. You got great content about how do you get to the user, without spending a ton of money. So this is another example where one application came in as advertiser. So it's called Flirt Map. Flirt Map is a dating site. It's like a freemium dating site. So without paying any money, you can see boys and girls picture. You pay some premium, you will buy some points, and you can probably email them, okay? Something like that. So they come in as an advertiser. What they do is they package 500 free points, which is economic value of about $5, and they are the advertiser. So in this case, they package, and what they want is a user to download and also to activate. You know how hard I mean, download is nothing, right? You can go to use a bunch of other applications or companies and drive huge download, but then people download and they don't activate, right? So it's dead download. And so in this case, we kind of match. So this is an advertiser, right? So we match and we selected about 3 to 5 applications where we insert this one, the dating ads as reward inside those applications. And then Flirt Map pays 22 cents for every download and activation, which is not much, right? For the 22 cents to acquire a user, it's dirt cheap, right? So we run this one, and we are seeing conversion rate again. Of course, we do a user behavior match, right? We probably serve to mostly singles. We're seeing 47% for people to actually click and activate, which also means versus a Kmart campaign, 54%, basically 2 players, one of them will redeem that, right? So that's really high. But further up, because we have the engine that can allow the advertiser to configure another level of engagement. So what they do is that they will further drive the engagement by offering users to upload the picture and create a profile. Okay. Now, if you're running a date site and you have a user who create a picture and create a profile, upload picture, you basically have him for life, right? So in this case, Flirt Map would pay $3 for every user that would also upload picture and create a profile. $3. Okay. So sure, the population is smaller because we see it originally the 47% conversion rate. But with this one, with the $3 further, we're seeing 30% out of that 40% who would upload picture and create a profile. So we're doing very successful. This is, of course, it's much higher eCPM, and you as a game or as application developer, you get 60% of that. So that's a lot of, I mean, it's a revenue for it. We run this campaign in Italy and UK, very successful also. Next up. So these are the most quick example. Ooh, the color does look awful. So this is just something what we call in another program that we are talking about. I don't have really a slide. It's called loyalty program. So what happened is that you can, for example, I'll just give you a live example. We're partnered with something called a Startup Idol. So what happened, they actually launched embedded with Being2 in South by Southwest. So they are doing all these startup TV show, blah, blah, blah. And then the users on the smartphone can interact with the TV show. So they can tweet or Facebook share or stay on the program, watch 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Every single action the user has would get a word of points. And these points she can accumulate and later on redeem that for the actual coupon things. So for the user, she has to spend a penny. But after a month, maybe she accumulates 3,000 points, 5,000 points, and she can burn those points to buy maybe 30% of the Nike or 20% of Sony camera and things like that. So again, the brands have a way to reach to the users, right? Users are totally happy. Now again, when the merchandise pay us and we do the 4-6 split with proportionally split with applications that drive these traffic. So this is just a quick example, buy this for 3,000 points and 1,900 points. And we engage further. The more, let's say you accumulate 5,000 points and I accumulate only 2,000 points. So you will be served a steeper discount. Then you probably get a 35% discount. I get only, maybe 15% discount. So we engage in every way we can. So the next one, please. So our inventory in the content that we have different genre because we started with games. So games, we have casual games, skill games, and some of the education kids game also. So Fruit Ninja further up, they have another game called Explore Defense. It's really hardcore stuff. They are coming up with, and there's a game called Angry Frog, and IMR. It's a game lions, a bunch of them. Actually, so for the application, we have Flirt Map, we have Startup Idol that use us, and we're actually partnering with a program you guys probably, it's called Got Talent, or Britain's Got Talent. It's a very popular show. And they're launching at, should be next week or after next week. And they are expecting 50 million users. So again, their smartphone users interacted with a TV program, and then with our engine that will drive deeper user engagement and allows everybody to monetize from that, including the user, right? User is a lot of benefit for the users. So we're working with a market research firm, and we're working with some kind of mobile commerce as well. So what's in the pipeline, so this is the numbers that we deliver. So we have something called a user pool. Our MNU is about over 16. This is as of end of February, the data. And we have DAU about 4 million. And we have something called impression. That's basically reward events. It's standard rewards plus sponsored rewards. We're seeing a lot of traffic from China, and we haven't really made a lot of money from there. So that's my mission. I got to go figure out how to make money from there. We need to partner with a lot of media agency. And because it's an Android market, because Fruit Ninja is extremely popular in China. But making money from China is a challenge. Their per user ARPU is just not as high as in US or let alone with comparing to South Korea or Japan. Next, please. So in other words, we really turn your traffic, all these rewards to monetize for as a revenue. So these are just numbers, some of our numbers. So we're seeing terrific growth because this is what we serve the impression, the ads. So back in November, we have a little over 11 million. Now we're basically double it to 30 million. Next, please. So these are some of the partners we're working with. So for example, Game Line, I Must Run, that we're launching. And we work with Hook Media, which is a game discovery, game recommendation. Fruit Ninja is launching the paid version on iOS and Android. I think they're, I don't know, like $1.29 or $1.99, something like that. And they're using Being2 as an exclusive reward engine. So what they do is that on their paid version, they don't want their user to see the noise, right, of the advertising. So they want a clean version. In other words, ads coming again as a form of reward, so the user don't feel like seeing all the noise. So they are using us, and they're expecting to pick up something about over 100 million users. And then on the application side, again, we're partnering with Britain's Got Talent, so that's launching also. We're going crazy this month. Their TV show is launching. And on the media, we are bringing some, it's called Emphoria. They're bringing a lot of like Omaha Steakhouse and a lot of the exclusive kind of advertising so that, the user cannot see in other places. And also, again, retailer, local retail. We have the LBS ads. Next one. So that's just really quick. And the user growth that we are seeing, we're going just really breakneck because last year we have 50 million. In Q3, I think end of November, and we're seeing 80 million. That's basically quadruple in 4 months, so less than 4 months. So we're projecting reaching 250 million. My boss is a little bit aggressive, but he told me the reason why, so I kind of concur. The reason because we partner with these big games and also the TV show, so we expected a lot of these users drop into our little pocket. So next one, please. So these are just who we work with, and then we can do pilot program and just really quick ramp up for the advertiser or for the game and application developers. And then also, we are so international because we're seeing the traffic in China. I'm going on a trip this Friday to 3 cities in China and 3 cities in Southeast Asia. Indonesia, we should be able to monetize really well. So I'm going over there and make a lot of partnership, which means that if your applications is launching here or in Europe, you have a way to also reach to the users out there, and vice versa. And if you're a big brand, you want to reach the users in Asia, in Southeast Asia, that will go as well. Our biggest market, monetize the market right now is, of course, in US and in Europe. The monetization is really high here. But we need to go to the Asia. Next, please. So this is what we see at the global market, that we can bring everybody together. It's not just US and Europe. And here in outside China, then of course we have these kind of configuration. But in China, we work with a big platform, and the advertisers in China wants to reach the users outside also. And the user and these big brands, global brands, they also want to reach the user. And the best way to reach, of course, is through this, we think, it's through this form of gamification on the rewards. Let's see, do I have anything to blur about? Next one, please. Oh, these are just if you come on board, and we'll have to work. And our code is very lean and mean. We do white label, so like Fruit Ninja, you don't even see B-into. So the white label version, I think it's like 30K. And even with the Fogo, if you use our graphics, it's a little over 1 meg, that's it. Really straightforward. We support a lot of the platform. Usually integration is fairly straightforward. And the most important thing for the advertiser or for the media agency is to work with your client and design the best way to deliver that content. And we are the one in the middle to bridge you, to bring to the target audience. Our user right now, male users, demographic is probably 60%, something like that. I think that's it. So if you have any questions, then later on, I think the best will be time, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for.
Thank you. All right, world of advertising, of course, and we all know this, right? We all have a TiVo, and you fast forward past the commercials, and we've become so inured to billboards that we just kind of look past it. And so what Shirley is talking about is actually really engaging people. And I think one of the things that advertisers begin to expect, too, is those really hardcore measurable numbers. We used to have an adage in the ad agency that, you're throwing away 50% of your marketing budget, but you don't know which half. Right, and so we would go forward with that. With things like B-into and some of these gaming campaigns and these direct measures that we're seeing through digital campaigns, we're actually getting a greater knowledge and insight into what is being really effective. So a little bit more on the gaming space. We're joined tonight by Finn Kelly. Finn's company is called The Go Game, and I'll let him talk a little bit about what they're doing with corporations and experience marketing. Thanks, Finn.
Hello, so I'm from The Go Game. The Go Game has been around since 2001. We basically started running games on cell phones back when you couldn't read on a cell phone. It just, it was a candy bar phone. We kind of hacked into that, created a few games where people come out and play in the streets, play in North Beach, run around, take photos. People wrote about it. And since then, we decided we would, try to sell this game. Our original idea was we'd sell it to the likes of Verizon, and they'd want to buy it. And really, that wasn't true at all because it was 2001, and they just sort of laughed at us. In that time space, now obviously we have more of these things floating around. Obviously, amazing devices that can do it. The way we stayed around was by just doing these for corporate team building. So when she asked me to speak about advertising, I can talk a little bit about that. Primarily what we've done is create a game that's been played by over 1 million people in the course of is take photos and videos of themselves doing crazy antics. We can go to the next slide here. So we have about 20 employees who run these events. We call them game runners all over the world. We've worked with the likes of Nike and Microsoft and Gap and Apple and Genentech and all the good companies who try to do well by their employees. They hire us all the time. Like I said, about 1 million players, and we've also licensed our platform to be run in Europe and as well as Canada. Next slide. So we've had a lot of experience doing this for team building. We've also done some creative training around improvisational training for employees, for large groups, small groups. We've run the largest ever scavenger hunt of 3,500 people in Dallas, again for a company, before they went out of business, called IDR. They actually printed big phone books, so they were just like on the downward spiral. We do marketing for products as well and some advertising. I'll get into that in a second here. Launch parties and also just fun for your birthday or whatever it might be. You want to spend a bunch of money to have us design a game for you, we'll do that too. Next page. You can see us making superheroes out of people and kind of antics all over the city. Next page. Here's a game we did for Xbox where it was the search for Sam Fisher for their Splinter Cell launch back in Los Angeles. It was a red carpet event, 500 people. People were given a login. They had to out agents that were posted around the environment. Some people wearing cat eyes, fake bartenders passing out drinks that had special codes underneath them. If you outed a certain number of them, then you're eligible to get the big final prize where you have to go in with Sam Fisher and unlock a briefcase, and there's a lot of time pressure and a big music going on, and you get to win an Xbox. Pretty simple stuff, but it was pretty effective in getting people all jazzed. Next one. We've done a game for Sims, the Sims EA launch in 2009, 40 college campuses. It was a 3-week-long campaign where we had people posting all kinds of videos and photos. Our stuff tends to center more on creativity and how to elicit creative responses from people. So we posted the photos up to our page, vote them up with Facebook and the like, and they gave away a bunch of free stuff to the winners. Next one here. The street food game. As we found over the course of time, scavenger hunts, while exciting in 2001, not so exciting anymore. So it tends to be the case that to get people to come out and run around like idiots for a period of time now, they either have to be paid by their employees to do so, or they have to be really passionate about the thing that they're coming out for. So we kind of stopped doing public games around 2006-07. And then we were approached by a friend of ours who runs the street food festival here in San Francisco, and so I used that same system we used for The Sims to build out this 2-week program. And we thought we'd get maybe 100, 200 people. There was 2,000 people who signed up in the first 2 days. They were running around the city like crazy, totally oversaturating our vendors who we had lined up. And it just proved that it really does take a passionate thing already for you to come on out. I know Seth over at Scavenger had a client for Mazda. And I think he had to pay people $500 just to come out and play. Just to play the game, you got $500. Because to get people to come and do these things on their own for a brand, it's a little difficult. Next slide. So when I thought about this talk and what advertising means to me, I think of my dad, who was actually one of the best ad men in the world. He created the sort of the funny genre of commercials. You might have heard of Where's the Beef and the fast-talking FedEx guy. Let's go to the next slide here. That's him on the cover of Ad Age magazine back in 1985. He got over 100 Clio awards. He passed away unfortunately in 2001, but he's in the Creative Hall of Fame. I go every year to give away the Pat Kelly Award to some enterprising young advertising student. I also go when there's another inductee coming in this year. There was Steve Jobs was inducted alongside my dad, who was inducted the same year as Goodby and Silverstein. So he was a guy that knew about advertising and how to get people motivated by advertising. Let's move on to the next slide here. In fact, the most memorable advertising Madison Avenue ever sold, #1 spot, this is in New York Times, the New York Magazine a couple years ago, my dad's commercial, right there. I think we're going to go ahead and watch it, the next one here. If you click on that.
Okay, which travel plans I need to be in New York on Monday, LA and Tuesday, New York on Wednesday.
We don't have audio.
Got it. So you want to work here? What really makes you think you deserve a job here?
Well, sir, I think I'm good at figures and I have a sharp mind.
Excellent. Can you start on Monday?
Yes, sir, absolutely, without hesitation.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Wonderful. And in conclusion, Jim, Bill, Bob, call Fred, Load, Dork, Abe, and Ted. Business is business, and as we all know, in order to get something done, you got to do something. In order to do something, we got to get to work. So let's get to work. Thank you for taking me. Petey did a bang-up job. I'm putting you in charge of Pittsburgh. I know it's perfect, Peter. That's why I picked Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's perfect. Peter, may I call you Pete? Pete.
See you.
I'll wait 15 seconds.
Can you wait 15 seconds?
I'll
wait 15 seconds.
Congratulations on your deal in Denver, Dave. I'm putting you down to deal with Dallas. Don, is it a deal? Do we have a deal? It's a deal. I gotta go. I got a call coming in. Hi, Doc. Just double down.
In this fast-moving, high-pressure, get-it-done-yesterday world, aren't you glad there's one company that can keep up with it all?
You got a deal? Good. I'm putting you down to deal with Dick. Dick, what's the deal with the deal? Are we dealing? We're dealing. Dave, it's a deal with Don, Doc, Dick. Doc, it's a deal with Dave, Dick, and Dave. Don, it's a doc with Dick, Dave, and Dick. Gotta go, Dave. Disconnecting. Gotta go, Dick. Disconnecting. Gotta go, Dave. Disconnecting.
So you might remember that commercial. It was pretty groundbreaking in its day. And it still is pretty funny. And it was revolutionary at the time because it made fun of the people who were selling the thing. Right? It made fun of the guys upstairs who were the big executives and thought they knew everything, and it sided with the guy in the mailroom who they're really trying to sell to, who's going to decide how they're going to get that package there. It also was satirical. It tried to use the word dick over and over again in as many ways as possible. So he definitely he had a mixed relationship with the advertising industry, and so we can go on the next one here. This is Alon Lee, who's credited with the inventor of the ARG genre, co-produced The Beast with Level 42 Entertainment. He was one of the first players of the Go game up in Seattle when he lived up there. We've got to be pretty good friends. Now he's in the Fourth Wall Studios in LA, and he's about to deliver on a very major investment in this genre that the next slide, I believe, has the trailer to. Has anybody seen this? No? All right, this is called the Cathedral trailer. And he's now gotten, a sizable amount of money to produce kind of the game that he would always want to make, and the technology to do so. Part of it from NASA to do this alternate reality or augmented reality stuff, and you'll see a little bit of a teaser here what he's doing. I don't think anybody's seen this. There's like 82 views on this on YouTube. So, uh-oh.
I need your help. Don't have to go through.
So as you can see, it's pretty much like the pinnacle vision of what he tried to do, back with the Beast with AI, what Majestic tried to do, all right, with EA with Majestic, possibly coming to reality here. It's still just a trailer. He's screening these things right now. I talked to him last week about this. He's extremely excited. Everyone's excited about it. Everyone's sort of waiting anxiously to see what's going to come of it. But let's move to the next slide. Other notable luminaries in this field: Dennis Crowley, who created Pac-Manhattan and worked underneath Kevin Slavin in the NYU program. He went on to make Area Code, probably the best-known transmedia ad agency, now sold to Zynga, now making games. Seth Prebosh, creator of Scavenger, the game layer on top of the world. He's now made Level Up sort of a coupon redemption mechanism platform. This next slide? So what's common with all these visionaries is that they don't do advertising, right? They did for a while. Like the AI's Beast or whatever was for Microsoft. Halo was all for Microsoft. But then as the glow starts to fall off these things, you'll notice that these guys tend to head for the exits, as did my dad. So over the course of 10 years that he got to run the FedEx campaign and decide everything for himself, as a creative person, that was the most rewarding part of it. And then as that power went away and he was no longer able to do that, he kind of headed for the exits as well. So, I don't want to leave on a negative note. I'm sure there's lots of room for that, but from my personal, just my own personal venture and what we've tried to do with our company is that we sort of stay away from advertising. The short little bits of time I've had to work with some people on developing some ideas, you find that they just kind of get really watered down pretty quickly. So how do you keep it fresh and how do you keep it interesting? Well, the new stuff is around the corner. You know, there's other people who are working on viral video campaigns that are going to make a big splash, and you hope that there's someone like a State Farm to put a big sticker at the end of the OK Go video that will take advantage of that and will fund it and will make that art happen, because those are the bold advertisers, right? Those are the bold brands who take a risk on something that's unknown, that trust Alon Lee to do that. You know, so I encourage whoever here is in the audience to take that risk, because that's going to be where the big payoff is. And then ultimately, you know, those people all leave for the exits. So, next one. So what are we doing that's staying fresh? Well, in our little world of the Go game, you know, we don't really have big reach, but we're doing something called the Rickshaw Sessions. You can go to the next slide here. And I encourage people to, well, we haven't built it yet, but one of our goals is to make these karaoke machines that are on rickshaws, where you can take them from bar to bar, order them up if you need to. And the only way to get your ride for free is you have to earn it by singing in the back of the cab. And the best part about that, that'll be broadcast, because it'll be, of course, directly connected up to a YouTube channel or some kind of a Justin TV. Voted on, you know, everybody gets to have a great time, and you move on to your next venue. Somebody wants to make that with me, let me know. The next one here, we've done games for performances. This is Jad and Robert Coleridge. They do Radio Lab, you probably have heard of. So we've done some experiments with them, where they performed here in Berkeley with Zettelbach Hall, just namely trying to find them afterwards in sort of a game environment, but also submitting audio clips during the show that then Jad can mix into the performance. So that was pretty cool. Next one. This is the Treat Social Club that just recently is launched at the Go Game headquarters, and I invite you guys to come check it out. Basically, it's the synergy of performance with games, of visuals, dance, music, with the game environment that's allowing for audience participation to happen. We can just roll this here if you want to. Yes, no?
Yeah.
There it is. So this is with the Realistic Orchestra. They're a San Francisco staple band that's been around for about 10, 15 years. This is their big band that's performing original works set to sort of bizarre, strange, abstract silent film. Some aerial dance. We're also doing games which allow you to submit photos that'll be used for improvisation, pairing up eyeball videos so you can find people in network. Anyway, thank you guys very much for hearing me out.
Enjoyed your talk about
Thank you.
Just social, geo-aware kind of applications, and you kind of walked through the evolution of it.
Yeah.
And you talked about really how Go Game is really kind of constrained today geographically. But there's a lot of new technology that's kind of popped up in the last 6 months to 2 years. How do you think that might be changing the landscape you're working with today?
Well, we're not constrained geographically. We run these games all over the world, all over the country. We run 50 events a month for team building for companies. What we've not done is like federate it as a platform yet, like Scavenger did and sort of now pivoted away from. And the main reason we've sort of tried, but the main reason for that is that it feels like it's going to undercut our business. And so finding a balance without having investment money and just having it completely funded by client events like we do makes for an interesting balance of how do you actually make a platform and get it out to people and not undercut your core business. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a question about the code campaign. And maybe I just can patch something, but you had some great content, and it was there was a lot of tie-in with point of sale, vending machines, and pieces that would go in fast food chains and that sort of thing. But you also had a slide that talked about how you had content that was being pushed out on Twitter. Where else was that besides Twitter? I'm not sure I caught that.
Well, I mean, the language, I mean, again, they still call it a brand language, even though it's obviously, it's kind of an overarching sort of way of considering sort of the audience, but it's all across kind of the digital stuff. So there's this My Coke Rewards, there's a kind of a hub, a digital hub. There are all the various campaigns that are happening across all the Coke brands, and so those are all opportunities. Each one of them have Twitter feeds, you know, and there's actually a new Tumblr blog that we're launching with them, where again, sort of, it's all about just sort of publishing content very quickly, very, you know, kind of snackable elements. But it's going to percolate up to the kind of more corporate spaces. But right now, it's going to kind of it's going to launch and sort of start sort of in the places where teens are, you know, sort of interacting with the brand the most. So Facebook, you know, Twitter, Tumblr.
So at this point, you've got like a community manager that will push stuff out onto Facebook, and then as there are likes, it gets pushed out to the social graph.
Yeah, I mean, so we're working on the overarching strategy and the language and kind of the rules of engagement. And they've got a big team internally that, you know, of content managers and sort of the day-to-day folks that own the community. And so they're gonna own it and run that internally. But they're gonna work with the kind of the pieces of content. Well, basically, actually, it's a little bit more complicated because Wyden Kennedy is also in the mix, and they're a big agency.
Right.
So they're really tasked with creating the content against the strategy, and then the internal community managers are, pushing it out and responding.
Got it. Thank you.
So building on that question, I'd like to actually ask all of you, you know, with the development of more transmedia and experiential marketing opportunities through games, through Tumblr, Pinterest, new emerging technologies, do the brands that you work with see value in creating these story worlds? You know, is it about the content, or is it about the engagement? Are they trying to create a story universe for their brands?
I mean, it seems to me that they, you know, they want to be in these places because they keep hearing about them, and they just think that, you know, I'm not sure that they always understand what it is to create a story world. I think that's our role in a lot of cases. You know, it kind of depends on the relationship, but in some cases, for example, you know, we're running the creative, so it's kind of on us to see this and say, hey, here's how we think you should approach it based on the strategy, based on who you are, and here's how we adapt what we're doing for this space. But it varies a little bit. I mean, some cases the client has their in-house content team, and then there's, they maybe have their own ideas, or they initiate something and you see it and you're like, wait a second, that's not the best way to do it. And we had an instance with the client where, Pinterest is blowing up. They went and put some things on Pinterest that, were kind of potentially sexist in the way that they were constructed, which, they didn't really see it that, they were just trying to get something up there. And so, we, came back and were like, wait a second, you should probably rethink this. And so I think, it's interesting. It's always interesting.
And we always talk about making sure that our partners are being authentic, because we don't really think about, like, when we think about a Sony or a Coca-Cola or a Tesla, we're not thinking about, sometimes we're thinking about stories when it's about sort of educating people about something that's new or different. but often we're more kind of supporting an idea and really supporting a story around a value proposition that the brand has with consumers. And so we always start with like, well, this is an exchange. They buy your products because you give them something good, right? Mm-hmm. And start there. And then think about that with your marketing too. Like, think about how you actually deliver something of value and build your connections that way. And so Pinterest is a great one. I mean, it's like every client's like, what are we doing on Pinterest? And you're like, do you belong there? You know, and do you have something of value that you can offer in that space that drafts on, you know, the technology, the emerging behaviors, and so forth. So I've seen some good stuff on Pinterest, like what's that home television network has got a way to sort of build their inspiration boards, like get this look for your house. It's perfect for Pinterest. Mm-hmm. It totally maps to, you know, the 90%, you know, female demo. It makes sense, and it's authentic to who they are, and it's valuable. And so like, oh, that's a good use. Mm-hmm. But, you know, if you're Duracell batteries, do you need a Pinterest page?
Right. You know, what I've seen is that I was in Shanghai, and the last time I was there, it was also a creative agency, and what they did is they did one campaign for largest commercial bank in Hong Kong, and on mobile. I'm speaking on the mobile because medium is so different on mobile. Again, the attention span is really short, so we can't really deliver a long story kind of thing. And the kind of stories, again, is like you carry the message, and what you want is a user to, you know, laugh out to you, say, wow, this is fun. So what they do, you know, you think about, bang, how can you build a game? Well, the kind of game that they build, it was collect the different balloons or something like that. Every time you go to the bank, you know, you do some transaction, you come back and you collect the balloon in a very funny and cute and colorful way, and then you share, you tell your friends, it just does that automatic kind of socialization as well. Because on mobile, it's very hard to, you know, to do your massive social virality. But the kind of engagement and the kind of sharing with your more intimate group, I think that's a key. And then that actually creates a lot of opportunities for application as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you guys each deal with playing with the other agencies that are connected with the brands, and who's in charge of this and who might be eating whose lunch or whatever, the territorialism that can happen between agencies?
I've definitely got a lot of. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the Coke stuff is maybe the first time that Odopod's actually been the smaller lead agency of a group of agencies, and it's Berkeley for sure. Because Wyden Kennedy, you know, spends a lot of money. I mean, brokers a lot of dollars around the media spend, and you know those dollars, are and they're just beholden to them, and we're kind of in there strategically, and so it's funky. But it really varies from client to client. Sometimes we work with smaller companies like Tesla, where there's really no other agencies in the mix. Or Nest is another one, the learning thermostat. And then in some cases, like the bigger brands like the Sonys and the Coca-Colas were a big part of an ecosystem of agencies. And you know, I think that we start with kind of like, here's what we're good at, here's what we don't know, and we start with that kind of place of honesty and openness, but you know, inevitably there's bickering because, you know, basically everybody wants to own everything, right? And everybody's sort of looking to grow their revenue in every which way they can, but we have to, as I think it's unique to digital agencies and people that have worked in this space. We're used to working with other agencies and understanding that there's places that we don't get, and we have to be collaborative. And so we're actually kind of fiercely collaborative. We work really hard to try to break those things down, but it doesn't always work, but I mean, it's definitely something that we look at a lot.
I don't really have a whole lot to add. I mean, I think that was a pretty good summation. I mean, I think that, you know, when we started off as a production house, we worked directly with agencies, and that, you know, that sort of collaborative nature is I think also how we tend to approach things when there are others in the mix. There are things we do well, there are things we, and it's a matter of being honest and developing relationship and trying to cultivate those relationships like any relationship.
Yeah, I had just a couple of comments. One was about content and storytelling. And to me, storytelling is like the oldest trade in the book. Because think back to soap operas. I mean, P&G has been doing it, for more than 50 years. So it's really just transmedia. It's really just putting it in a different medium. So, when you get back to the marketing concept and the brand equity, I mean, that's the key, is brand equity. And all the major brands really do have their positioning statements on how to speak to certain consumer segments, and then you build a story around that, I would imagine. So that was just a comment, my perception. I think sometimes we get caught into the medium rather than the marketing issue. And, the brands are the ones who are going to, put up the dollars. So we need to support their efforts in that way, not just telling the story for the sake of telling the story.
It goes even further back, right? I mean, it's like, the church was commissioning incredible artists to paint the walls of their ceiling.
Exactly.
I mean, they were influencing the story that was told, for sure.
Yep.
To suit their needs. But I mean, it's a pretty old profession. It's back there with one or two.
And it's pretty much about marketing, or unless it's for another reason, but that's still marketing because you're trying to persuade others to see your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was talking about even in the beginning. I mean, with Burma Shave, and you mentioned the soap operas. I mean, a lot of the media that we have, that we grew up with and was funded by marketing, by ad agencies. And they actually will often push the envelope of these technologies and the stories that are being told until I agree with Finn, until the people run for the exits, right? And then the media can stand on its own, and the advertisers are kind of forced to go on to the next thing. And so that's an excellent
point. So it has to be the right fit also, right? It has just what we were talking about, it has to be the right fit.
There seems to me to be like a, sort of a classic tension between creative person and an agency, where you want to do this, you want to tell a great story, you want to do, you have this creative impulse, and an agency, I think as Finn put it, they sometimes you're working with a client, the client says yes to some things, says no to some things. There's there's a lot of pushback, there's a lot of fear that you're dealing with a lot of the time, and you have to work with your clients on that, and that's part of the job. And I think that there is that point that you can see where someone who is hugely creative they want to do it themselves. They want to see their vision the way they see their vision versus having it diluted or challenged or changed. And I think that but at the same time, advertising is a great place to play and explore and learn things and test things out and start to develop that vision. So that's just kind of where we're at.
One other comment I wanted to add, just a separate question about the gaming. Those conversion rates are just incredible. They're really off the charts. For the U.S. And so
US and Europe.
And so I was curious, what kind of reach is that? I mean, what's volume as far as, so conversions are great, but is that scale? Can it be scale?
Yeah, that's why we're able delivering 30 million in all the impressions a month. It was still growing.
Is that
of course,
unique
it's a campaign
impressions?
by campaign. That's not the average.
Was
That's
that
not the
unique
average.
impressions?
No, the impression means that the combination of the standard ads. For example, in China, there is a media agency. They just put in standard ads because we got some users there. And then the combination of what we call sponsor ads, for example, like Kmart or the Flirt Lab kind of things. So some of those that did very well, they designed very well, and they choose, and we do the matching of the kind of game and with advertising. It's funny that people say, Fruit Ninja, so do you guys put like fruit-related advertising? Hell no. People who slice like 10,000 fruits doesn't necessarily mean you eat organic fruit.
If Dole would have put that out, that would have been smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. This looks to me like, no surprise, B2C kind of marketing. Is there any room anywhere that you can imagine where this would be a B2B arena?
Oh, that's a good question.
The gaming stuff? You're talking about the gaming stuff?
Or transmedia or
And we're definitely B2B. Because the players do not interact with us directly. On one side, again, as I said, we are the application developer, publishers, game developer, game publishers. And then on the other side of the equation was media agency or ad network. Yeah, we don't deal directly with the player. But players come to us because they register in order to redeem the coupon and discount. So they register on our network. So we have reach, we can send email, and then they also form dashboard, game alliances, that kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, then there's Jive software, which has made basically this entire gaming, it's sort of like Yammer, Yammer, Office, Chatter, Facebook, basically social network. But Jive has added a whole game layer for polls and for photos and for collaborations and for points and scoring and leveling up and so forth. So they've done the whole thing for business to use internally.
I spelled Jive, J.
Jive, I believe, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Jive.
I think it's, and I mean, it's like one of those things where I kind of feel like the B2C, B2B thing is a little artificial, only because it's just, they're people, and people respond to the same things. It's like the mechanisms that drive people to game out in the world of consumption are the same people, the same things that drive people to game themselves in their place of work, right? So if businesses are smart, they're leveraging that stuff. And I mean, we've seen things like, there was Twitter and then there was Yammer, right? Yammer is just, a closed network version of Twitter, but it has, basically the same kind of functions, right? Or even more Facebook, I guess. But I think that, so there's definitely applications, and it's just sort of like, what story are you trying to tell? What are you trying to do?
Frank, did you want to add something? No? So I'll actually just add something. At AdTech this year, the AdTech that just happened in March, right? There was a huge segment on using Facebook and social networking for B2B. And it's one of the fastest growing segments. And I agree completely with Guthrie that it's business to people now. And I think that smart brands are realizing that people are on Facebook, that they're using the social networks, that they're using Yammer and Jive. And so I think we're seeing it kind of across the board. It will start with consumers. And it typically will even start with a youth audience, right? Where everybody's chasing these youth dollars. And so, I think that we're going to see it really across the spectrum. So, which actually leads to another question that I have for our panelists, because Shirley mentioned the games and the gamification, and we know that the Coke campaign is kind of aimed at a younger audience, and also the short attention span. So in our youth audiences, we have a short attention span, a jumping from technology to technology, right? We're seeing people, well, MySpace has long been abandoned, right? And the fastest growing segment on Facebook are women over the age of 50, right? So how long are kids going to be there then? So what do you see when you and your clients are looking to go after this youth market, and what technologies are you kind of projecting for them are going to be the next thing coming? Rickshaws.
Rickshaws.
Definitely got to be nice.
All right.
Rickshaw karaoke. It's going to be huge. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I think that there's, I don't know, I'm going to kind of hedge a little bit. I mean, I feel like there's all kinds of emerging kind of tools that are, kind of showing up, and, ways to play and ways to interact. Foursquare, has been around for a while, but there's a variety of other kind of location-based kind of experiences that, bring people into. I mean, at some level, I think it's just, what do people build on top of what's out there? What do people build on top of the APIs that are existing that, that kind of speak to people? I feel like, I'm overwhelmed by how much is always happening, and I think that, ultimately it's sort of it's kind of the process. Like, okay, so here's who we're going after. Let's study it. So let's study what this audience of 17 to 20-year-olds are doing and using and wanting. I think that's kind of always where it seems like we need to begin.
I mean, I'd say that the behaviors are far more fascinating that are emerging than the technologies, right? I mean, it's like engineers and people put stuff out there, and then people adapt it and use it, and that's the stuff that we're watching. We're watching how people are changing the way that they interact with one another. I mean, it's like, I mean, I'll tell you right now, if you're buying a phone for a tween or a teen, don't even worry about your minutes. Just buy unlimited data. Like, don't even think twice, right? They don't call anybody. It's like, it's just like, figure it out, right? Like, stop, doing the things that people aren't doing and start to figure it out. Now, what I would say is there are some immutable truths about people and the things that they value and the things that, they're looking for in terms of supporting, who they are as individuals. Those things don't change, but there is this really interesting landscape of behaviors that are constantly in flux, and that's what we watch. And for our brands, when we can, we're always trying to get them to just portion a little bit of their budget every year to invest, place some small bets on some interesting and new emerging platforms and see how it works, run some pilots, test some things, and see what their consumers respond to.
What I see on the mobile space is that, again, because of lacking of this massive audience to do virality, is that you actually still kind of drill into the social graph. Think, Facebook about that. But you form a very intimate kind of grouping behavior. So it's like, some of the calls, a friend of mine who's a founder of something called Crowd Call, and you can do a phone call. It's like group.me, right? And just except that you can do up to 20 phone calls in conference. Or kind of like grouping gift that you can share with your friends. But again, this you typically share with somebody you know. So it's a smaller audience. It's a much more engaging. So on mobile phone, if somebody, several friends want to give you a gift through the SMS on Facebook, you say, shoot, I'll kill that application. But on the phone, when you had to receive the gift, you say, you most likely, woo, SMS back, right? So it's actually create a very different, more engaging behavior. And I think that's all. And then it also, for example, forming the alliance for the games. For Ninja users, I think on day one, we are seeing like 100 alliances being formed. And I think that created actually a lot of opportunities for applications that do discovery and recommendation. Because again, on mobile phone, when you receive recommendation from somebody you know, more intimate relations, you are likely to respond. And I think for the brand, that is opportunity to use as well, to reach out extremely engaging and response and behavior.
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with an NPR ad, and then finding things that people are interested in. Like we did something for the road trip app you can play on your phone anytime you want to. That's all in support of the California parks that are about to be shut down. So teens are going to care about that. They're going to want to post photos about that. So being clever about how you position your brand to be in support of that, that's a good idea. So it's not like anything new. You're sponsoring an idea, but just that it taps into the zeitgeist of what these people care about. Never grow old.
I was wondering how much you think about your customer cycles when you decide what you need, because it seems like, particularly maybe with high ticket items where your buying cycle might be particularly long, there's certain media that could be optimal at different times and the closer they get to purchase, and how you might hit them with, continue this dialogue through different media at different points in time.
I'll start that off.
Yeah, I think with, in any case, it's kind of, you guys working on this. Yeah, you kind of got a map where they are at various points. So, where do they start? How do you get them to awareness? How do you get them to, the way I kind of think about it is like, kind of you're trying to move them to awareness, to usage, to, interest, to purchase, to, return visit, to loyalty or something. There's kind of a, depending on kind of what the product is, or, what you're offering, it's like, what is that map? Where are they at each of those stages? And then, when are you going to deliver them content-wise? And then, you have a way to, how do you measure that? Because you want to be thinking about, how well is it, kind of got a feedback loop. You can start to iterate based on. I mean, I think that's the way that at least I typically start off conceptualizing.
I think what I was, sorry, I think what I was thinking of is, and I know I agree with you, Frank, but it's like, what I see the missed opportunity, or at least I don't see it very often, is when you can actually, the storytelling aspect, where you can actually just move the story along in a different way, or the dialogue along. Whereas now it's really still more just sort of this mass, sort of the same messaging going in different mediums, but it's not really a dialogue or a continuing.
Yeah, and you gotta take, yeah, that's right, and you gotta take into account the context and the circumstances that people are entering into the story. I mean, we're always trying to design, talk about like a long consideration cycle, like when we work with Tesla, it's an automobile, right? It's the second most considered purchase after a home. The average length of time around an automobile purchase consideration period is 6 months. So how do you engage in conversation over a period of 6 months, half a year? And it's lots of different people that are talking about it, right? So what we think about is like, let's design that so that there's many ways in and many ways to move about that, and let's not prescribe like some sort of path through that, right? Let's let them come in at their point of interest and create an experience that's both, consistent but continuous, right? So that they don't have to stop. And so we think about it like, if they start the conversation around thinking about a Tesla because they walked into a store on Santana Row and saw the car and it was exciting, they played around with an interactive kiosk, they can save their session, they can pick it up on their iPad, they can show their loved one at home. And we want to design that process so that it can work that way, right? And they can enter in through the innovation story, they can enter in through the green story, they can enter in through whatever way they want, and we'll move them along.
And isn't that the essence of transmedia storytelling, right? Allowing people to enter at any point and to move along through the story at their own pace and at their own interest level. We really just have time for one more. We're right here.
So I'm curious how you guys think about virality, because I'm sure you have a lot of customers that come to you and want something to go viral and want to have something that's suddenly on everybody's lips, but that may not be appropriate actually for their goals or for their product, the story that they're telling. So I'm curious, are there sort of smaller, focused viralities, or is that a useful term? How do you guys think about that as you're taking a strategic approach to some of these campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, well, the viral thing is, 5 years ago, I said, I need the viral video, and there was always this their appetite for doing something edgy was exactly the opposite of their appetite for something that was like free marketing, and so that's BS. So we know that. But I do think there is something really interesting about building products and services that build into their model true amplification around either the things that are kind of core to a value that they deliver. Like, so if I unlock some more value about something that I'm consuming because I can do it with friends, and I can build that into the system, it's naturally viral, right? Yeah. And it naturally amplifies the story that I'm trying to tell. And it comes from a trusted source, which is my network. And so that's what we're looking at. I mean, we're working on kind of like marketing at the point of product design, and not thinking about like how do we like come out, and
sheep with LED lights.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cute kittens always just do it, if you want it. I mean, just funny cats and you're good. But I mean, I think that we just come at it a little bit more like from a systemic approach of like how do we actually build something that naturally amplifies.
And it is essential, if you're doing a mobile program or a web program, you need to build the hooks to allow people the easiest way to amplify that, right? To amplify, to let the friends know. If you fail to do that, then, good luck. You're counting on, something that dropped from the sky. But you need to enable that and make it as easy as possible. Don't make it the user jump through hoops in order to share or find the phone number of somebody, SMS, blah, blah, blah. Make it so easy. And that's a key to success. And that takes a lot of understanding of beauty.
I talked a little bit about the GE Works campaign. So we have another project with GE called the GE Show, which, GE, again, it's not maybe a company you think is like, oh, they've got these great stories, but they do these amazing stories. And we've done, I forget how many episodes, but we have an episode on trains, on airports, on healthcare, and each one has a series, it's very modular, series of different content pieces, all very shareable. Video kind of breaks it down, so it makes it digestible for the layperson. Games, simulation of a kind of flight, airport landing simulator, things that you want to play, things you want to share, things that if you're interested in train and braking technology, you're like, oh, hey, this is the coolest thing. A lot of people love trains. I'm going to share it with people that I. So part of it is thinking about what is it about this brand that's what's the thing that's interesting? What's the story? And yes, you're marketing, but you're also bringing up what people really like. People care about. People have this kind of visceral connection, like trains, cool. Look at what they do. Look at what GE is doing, and it's not about GE, but it's like, here's our technology. Here's what our technology is making possible. Here's what's innovative. Here's what's life changing, and that's rich.
Nerds are cool because they're real.
Yeah.
He doesn't like a nerd.
Ben, did you want to? No. So actually, I'll just say one thing about that point into what everybody was saying here. Ivan Asquith, who's considered kind of a guru in the transmedia space, says that transmedia in advertising actually is not an ad separate from the product. It becomes part of the product. And I think that what our panelists have been sharing with us today is that they're getting more involved even in the integration of the product with the creation of the Coke machines and the ads are starting much earlier in the process. And to Shirley's point, they become actually part of the process, right? The gamification and the couponing is all part of the experience that we're having. So with that, I would actually like to thank our panelists very much for joining us here today. Before we break, our panelists will be here to network for a little bit. Our co-founder, Justin Oliphant, has an announcement we'd like to make about our next month's Transmedia event. Justin?
So next month we're showcasing creators. So if you have a project, if you're working on a project, or you know people who are working on a project, this is your chance to go ahead and come to our website, either on meetup.com or on the Eventbrite page. There's a connecting spot there, and just go ahead and put in your project, and then next month there will be a bunch of showcases to see what some of the best projects are being worked on. So this is a chance to show off what you got.
So submit your projects. In addition, next month we will have Ken Eklund, who did World Without Oil, who will be doing a keynote for us. So we're very excited to have Ken with us next month. And so enjoy the rest of the pizza, everybody, and take home a little shot of the 5-hour energy drink.
And I want to thank Justin and Beth for organizing this one.
Pretty?
Yeah. They might have one day graphic designers.
So I suppose,
There's a lot of graphic designers this month.
Yeah. Huh? Do I? No, I wouldn't design it myself. Yeah. I mean, we would spec them out, hire a maker. I know tons of Burning Man people who are out there ready to fabricate these and like just get $100,000. Oh, really? Okay, great. That'd be a line.